The theory that the moon landings were faked is pretty boring, and we'll explain why. But we'll also introduce you to the possibility of interplanetary espionage, a whole heap of cosmic cover-ups, and a totally insane theory about the real purpose of the Cassini space probe. This is our list of the 7 craziest space conspiracies. Number 7. The Philae fraud. In November 2014, the world rejoiced as the Rosetta spacecraft successfully dispatched the Philae lander onto the comet 67P. Well, most of the world celebrated, aside from the morons obsessed with Matt Taylor's Hawaiian shirt, which I personally think was an awesome piece of clothing. Any man should be proud to wear that. But what's more interesting is how the Rosetta mission was suspiciously well-funded and swiftly executed. And the reason will blow your mind. The European Space Agency admitted to detecting strange sounds coming from Comet 67P, and the urgent nature of the mission has led some to believe that this comet was actually something else entirely. Some photos of the comet seem to show strange objects in the background and on the comet itself. What are they? Where did they come from? And what was the cause of those strange sounds emanating from the Comet 67P? At 6. NASA censors a live UFO sighting. On January 6, 2015, NASA was broadcasting a live feed from the International Space Station's high-definition Earth viewing platform when suddenly this happened. What the f was that? And why did NASA cut the feed so abruptly? The object, which was proven not to be the moon, appears to peep over the Earth's atmosphere and then hover in orbit. But what it did next, only NASA knows. They claim technical difficulties caused the blackout, and whilst that does occur quite often, timing is a little suspect, don't you think? It's like you cutting off the feed to your laptop in a dark living room when your wife walks in. How well do you think that works out for you? Oh, by the way, the live feed from the ISS is scheduled to be discontinued due to budget cuts, because NASA thinks you're dumb enough to swallow they can't afford a Nokia camera but have no problem paying $2 million for a toilet. Number 5. NASA is probe blocking the Russians. The Russian Space Agency has attempted 22 probe missions to Mars, and all but one have been complete failures. So why does Putin and his pals have such bad luck in trying to reach the Martian surface? The answer may lay at the doorstep of these fellas. This is HAARP, the High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, and many Russians blame this installation for their constant failures. This Alaskan research station is used for radar experiments on Earth's ionosphere, but some believe it could have been used to manipulate Russian craft and produce adverse weather conditions to further complicate things. So why would NASA do this? What exists on Mars which we don't want the Russians to see? Or is it a case of control, knowing Russia isn't part of the fold? What would they find and ultimately reveal to the rest of the world? Number 4. The Lucifer Project. The Lucifer Project conspiracy claims NASA has planned for decades to use nuclear material to turn Jupiter or Saturn into a second sun. But how seriously can you take a theory named after the devil himself? You may as well call it the Bush-Cheney family project. The theory believes that many of NASA's nuclear-powered probes, such as Cassini, currently orbiting Saturn, have a more important mission than merely taking pretty pictures of planets. Because NASA is secretly exploring the possibility of colonizing the moons of Jupiter or Saturn. Allegedly, the first step towards star forming was crashing test probes into both planets under the guise of protecting their moons from the dangerous fuel on board. But is star forming even possible? Jupiter's been called a failed star not because it spent its college years smoking pot and playing Tekken all day in its underwear, but because it just doesn't have quite enough mass. Apparently, enough nuclear fuel could theoretically compensate for this lack of mass. So is mankind on the cusp of entering into a pact with the devil to become God himself? Probably not, but it's pretty cool to imagine. At 3, solar system climate change. Climate change, the literal hot topic right now. Earth, but also Mars, Jupiter, and every other planet in our solar system, including Pluto. And yes, we called Pluto a planet because here at Strange Mysteries, we don't discriminate. If our school teachers called it a planet, that's good enough for us. Now, before you say all this heat is coming from the sun, In actuality, the sun has been cooling steadily since measurements were taken in 1978. So if this mysterious warming of the solar system isn't caused by heat coming from the sun, and it isn't coming from mankind, then where the HE double hockey sticks is it coming from? Number 2, the moon landing. The Soviets would have jumped all over the slightest hint of space skullduggery, but America's greatest nemesis fully verified the achievement of the crew of Apollo 11. However, what may not be real are the videos of this historic moment. At the time, NASA was unsure if their video equipment would work properly on the moon, so it's speculated that they didn't even bother taking any. Another theory states we did shoot footage on the moon, but it was of too poor quality to verify our achievements. And the wildest theory claims that while star footage was actually crystal clear, the things Armstrong and Aldrin saw up there were simply not suitable for mankind to see. Did humanity discover ancient alien ruins on the moon? Or did Buzz Aldrin go crazy and start windmilling at the Earth? Without the original footage, even if it exists, we may never know how the moon landings really unfolded. And at number 1, the Hubble hoo-ha. One of the main reasons so many moon landing conspiracists continue to believe man never went to the moon is the lack of evidence provided by modern-day technology. They argue if the government pointed the Hubble Space Telescope at the moon landing sites, we'd have all the proof we need. So why won't NASA do this? Come on, NASA! Stop being such a tease! But this conspiracy on our list is the easiest one to debunk, and that's why we've got it at number 1. Because the Hubble Space Telescope doesn't work like a regular zoom lens. You can't just punch in and out as you'd like. Hubble is calibrated to take pictures of things at extreme distances, so any objects photographed on the moon would be completely undetectable. Also, people are really good at Photoshop these days. So why would photographic proof be any more believable than what we already have? No, the only solution is to fire non-believers right at the moon from a giant cannon so they can see for themselves. $5 says as they suffocate, they'll blame the Illuminati for